I gotta tell you, and no disrespect to other dealerships out there, but I was straight up with you. I didn't go looking for it and judging you as a friend. When I've been to Erinwood several times, and I gotta say, I've told you this on several occasions. I'm really impressed from the moment you walk in, the experience as far as how people treat you, depending on what you're there for, and it's very clear that everybody understands their role, the team cohesiveness, the way the facility's built out, state of the art. Like I was very shocked and blown away at the level of every part of the experience, from when I walk into what it looks like to how the people act to how you feel from till the time that you leave. None of this is a coincidence, is it?
No, I wouldn't say that it is. That it is. Definitely when the building was being built, the owner Dave is a very active participant in the business, and he plays a pretty big role here. He's very big into charity. um, Making sure that things are easy for customers is one of the things that we work on very hard to make sure that we have a good reputation, and we've built that over the years as a as almost a marketing tool, but not a marketing tool, because you have to have a good reputation in this business if it's going to take you far. So there's a lot of thought that went into the way that we do things, and there are certain things that we're dead against. And I'll give you a specific example. So at our stores, there obviously inventory shortages, right? You've seen it. You've come by here when you had your vehicle cleaned recently and saw that, wow, normally our lot's completely full and there's not a lot of cars on here. So what some dealers are doing is they're charging a market adjustment above MSRP. And that's something that we're dead against, because unless it's, a special car like a GT500, or something that potentially has special things to it, it's one thing that we make sure that we don't overcharge people for, because we understand the relationship that we want to foster for the future. So we try to do things as best as possible and as transparent as possible for people, and that's what you'll see here. We're very selective in the people that we have here. A lot of the employees at both stores have been there for a long time. Some of my sales guys have been here for over 18 years. I've been here myself for 16. So it's one thing that longevity in the car business is not well known, but at our dealership it is.
And I gotta tell you, like Ford is, well, I may not be driving a Ford currently,
Yet.
I a lot yet. I a lot of the products I part of the reason I've never test driven a Mustang is because I don't know if I could ever leave after I drive it. Like I just love them. They're just, oh, I just love them. But um because there's so many exciting products, like you read about the Bronco and the relaunch of the Bronco, where the F-150 is, best-selling trucks. You read a lot of stories, especially in the States, about those giant markups that you're talking about. There's no inventory whatsoever. You got some of the hottest products going. There's dealerships that are getting Bronco centers. They're going to have giant spaces devoted to it. So one of my first thoughts is like, how do you not jump on this bandwagon? If everybody else is doing it, how do you guys not?
Well, don't get me wrong, it's tempting. It's tempting to say, hey, great, we're going to throw a $4,000 market adjustment on there and you can get it. But when you think about things from a long-term perspective, and that's how we treat this business, we're not here just for the money now. We're here to make sure that we can run this business for many, many years to come, and have people start here and continue to work here and support their families well. And we actually have quite a few people here that work, and their kids work here now too. So the generations are taking over as well. So we want to be able to continue to run this business well into the future. It's not a short-term prospect. So if you take that and you extrapolate what an MSRP market adjustment would do. So let's imagine, Jonathan, you walk
Yes.
in and I say to you, I know you from nowhere, so I'm not going to give you any sort of special chosen lawyer prices. And I figure, you know what, you're a lawyer, you can afford the market adjustment, right? So I tack on an $8,000 adjustment to a Transit, let's say, for example, because they're hot, right? Amazon is buying them up like crazy. They need them for fulfilling all the orders that they're getting, because many people are still shopping from home as a convenient thing. So I sell that to you. You decide as a business that you're going to finance it for 4 years, right? But in those
Right.
4 years, you put on like 300,000 kilometers on it, and you want to trade it in with 1 year left on your finance. So let's say you owe, let's say 14 grand, but the vehicle is worth three because of the kilometers and the abuse, right? So there's that $11,000 spread there, of which 8,000 was contributed by the dealership because of the market adjustment. So if you're going to be thinking about things from a longevity perspective, you don't want to create a hurdle for the future business that you could have, right? So this is how we think about it. I don't think it's necessarily ethical. Um, eh, some people do it. You know what? To each their own if they want to run their business that way. But we have very strong feelings about making sure that we're fair.
It blows my mind in a lot of businesses, whether you're a restaurant, a grocery store, a lawyer, a car dealership, a barber, whoever it is. In my mind, you're one of two things. You're either seeing a customer as one-offs and let's just gouge and get whatever we can and move on to the next person. Don't care if we ever come back. Or I want to build relationships. And it saddens me how few businesses actually want to build relationships in this day and age. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to car dealerships and nobody's come and greeted me, how I've seen ads, I messaged out, nobody got back. It's like somebody is giving you, a lead. Leads are the most important thing in business. It should be treated like with gold, and yet people don't seem to care. It blows my mind. And then the ones that really want to build relationships, I think that's the exception to the rule. And those are the businesses that are going to end up thriving. So no matter how much competition you have out there, and there's so many of us doing everything, there's very few of us actually that believe in the client service, the customer experience of it, period.
Agreed. And that's what gives you the distinct advantage over people, right?
Yeah.
It really does. Because let's face it, if, say, for example, yourself and myself didn't get along so well when we did our transaction with you, regardless of the conversation that we had on the phone.
Keeping in
previous
mind,
to
again, we
that.
were on opposing sides here.
Right, right. Um, you know, we may never have gotten together and do it, but the way that things went, the relationship that we ended up fostering, the way that things were handled on our first transaction that we did with you as our lawyer, it just gave me the motivation to continue to do it. I send you an email, I would get an answer back quickly. I get phone calls back. I would get, um, updates as to what was happening, and I was getting it from you at the time. And even after that, when I've done some other transactions with your people there, they always kind of knew, like, listen, this, to make sure that that George is well taken care of, and everybody delivered. So it really does go a long way when you think about how the person feels. And I tell that to my guys here all the time. A person will always remember how you feel when you do a transaction, not always what you say. It goes a long way.
I I think one of the rudest things in business is when somebody does act as an introducer, as a referral source, and they send you business and you don't say thank you. It blows my mind. I could tell you, let's say I know professionals that I'm not involved in their areas, whatever they're doing, whether it's law or it's whatever, whatever service they're offering or goods. And let's say 10 people end up working with them, and not one, they don't bother to pick up the phone, text message, email, whatever, messenger, just to write a one liner. Hey, Barry messaged me. Really appreciate it. I gotta tell you, if there's one thing I religiously do and I pride myself on, anybody that ever does an introduction for me, even if it's the 20th introduction, I send 20 thank yous. It is so important. Somebody going out of their way to act as your advertising source, your marketing source. I believe thank yous are really, really important, and manners are unfortunately not followed too much in our society, but they should be.
You're 100% right about that one. There's a lot of people out there that don't understand that etiquette. And I mean, maybe it's upbringing, maybe it's culture, I don't know, but it really does go a very long way. I had referred somebody to get something done a few months back, and the handoff went great. And just up to last week, I ran into the person that I referred the services to and said, "Hey, what happened?" "Oh, it was all well taken care of." And it turns out that they got way better than they thought they were going to, but I never got a thank you. Right? And I was like, "Really? Think I'm going to refer you something again?"
One time I didn't say thank you, and the person called me out on it, and I said, I'm in the middle of conversing with them still. It's been a couple of days. I just want to make sure where we're at, and then I was going to let you know, because either they're going to go with me or not go with me. But I'm kind of have this superstitious thing. I just want to know sometimes, depending on where the stage is at. But again, you got to do it. It's people, like, if you're listening to this, whatever industry you're in, think about it now. Think people who did that for you. always say a thank you. It doesn't mean that you have to send them a gift card or whatever. People just like to hear your voice or get a message back. But that being said, I could tell you some of my longest standing clients and even referral sources for that matter became loyal because they were disloyal at some point. They ended up going somewhere else for whatever reason. Maybe, we had 100 things together and one thing didn't go well for whatever reason. And you know what? Maybe it'll be me. I'm human. I'm not perfect. Even though people think I'm a robot, I am not. Mea culpa. That's the way it is. Or maybe somebody was like $10 cheaper. I don't know. But they have such a lousy experience that then they realize, wait a minute, all those phone calls, emails, I didn't get charged for that. They were always available. I think I had it pretty good, So some of I would say our best advocates for marketing are the professionals that are competing against us, give them a worse experience. And then they realize, wow, I had it really, really good. Because they always say the grass is greener on the other side. But sometimes people say, you know what? I just feel like a change, or I don't like his tone today, or I'm in a pissy mood, so I'm just going to go elsewhere for the heck of it. But when they come back, then they stay forever generally. So, and just be open to it. And the other thing I will say to that is, even if they do leave or they never even want business, always build that relationship. Not like, hey, you never sent me anything, or why are you working with somebody else? I'll never utter those words. If we're cool and we have a relationship, I feel like it'll come full circle. That's my logic.
True. Grass may be greener, but the water bill is higher, right? There's always some cost to it.
So that being said, where the experience go, I gotta finish up on cars here, but I gotta ask you, one of the things that hit me, and it kind of had a cross thing on it, was Ford, Nissan, and because a lot of dealerships in the car business, correct me if I'm wrong, but they tend to build in their one mold. Like a Ford dealership will have several Ford dealerships, like Hyundai, same thing, for example. And then when they start branching out, you'll find this one group and they'll have, 7 different brands. All of a sudden, it becomes a whole empire with it. What was the logic to go from such a product? Like, does it compete against one another, or is it actually offering more of a breadth of product to your clients? What do you feel?
So, I mean, part of the reason that we decided to go with the Nissan store, because we were also looking at a Chrysler store at the same time. Part of the reason why we did that is that back in 2018, Ford decided that they were not making any more cars.
Sedans.
Correct. Other than the Mustang, that was it. So that was the only thing. They got rid of the Fusion, they got rid of the Fiesta, they got rid of the Focus, and they were all very well selling lines. Like those lines sold very well, but they thought that their market share, people were going more towards trucks and SUVs. Not necessarily that they were wrong, but we found that we had a bunch of customers here. It made up 38% of our sales, cars. So of course, for us, we had to make quite a few adjustments in terms of trying to switch to selling more SUVs and trucks to pick up that business. So we did that successfully. However, we still had a complement of customers who wanted a car, who wanted a smaller car for their kids who are now driving. And this is part of the reason why we decided on the Nissan store, because when we started looking at it, we're like, well, let's take a look. They have cars. It gives us the opportunity to sell to our existing customers, so we have that relationship already built. So it's an easy transition. They had the Sentra was redesigned. They redesigned the Frontier. They redesigned the Pathfinder. They have an electric iteration coming to Aria. The Leaf is being redesigned. And I just actually literally went to a meeting 2 months ago where the stuff that's coming down from Nissan over the next 3 years is some crazy stuff. It's going to be some exciting cars. And then you also have the 400Z that's coming. So that's part of the reason why we decided to do it, because it added to the complement that we had here. Sure, if we had the opportunity to buy a Ford store now, we still will, because it's easy to keep within the brand because you understand the process well, but you don't have that offering where you're able to pick up that other part of the market. So that was the reason behind it. And Nissan's been pretty great to work with. From a corporate level, I get lots of support. I fostered some good relationships there with the regional managers and our district managers and things like that. And we understand what it is to be a franchisee. You follow most of the rules and you fight back when you need to. But the majority of the time, if you're just wanting to run a successful business, they'll support you.
But George, that being said, man, like most people cannot, and even in your industry, cannot do what you're doing at one dealership. you were already, I've known you for long enough. Before Nissan came into the picture, you were already swamped out of your eyeballs. How the heck did you bring another dealership into the fold and essentially double your work, and you're still standing as far as doing what you're doing in your career wise in the automotive, plus real estate, plus you have a family? How the heck are you doing that, man?
I just made some adjustments. That's the best way to say it, because I had to let go of some of the things that I did that were sales manager job, for example, and I had to take more of a bird's eye view of the businesses rather than working in the business. You have to work on the business a bit more. So I had to take some steps back, and a few key individuals here. I made some good hires into the organization that were able to complement and take on those roles. So it took that off my plate, which allows me to be able to do that more. And obviously, the more you do things, the better you're going to get at it. And it worked out pretty well for me so far. I actually feel less stressed now with the extra responsibility, because I have good people in place that are going to help move that forward on my direction.
How
So
how important is your team at Ford and Nissan, respectively, as far as the people you put into place? Could you be doing what you're doing essentially without your key players by your side?
no, of course not. Of course not. Because then you'd be taking on that onus. Because I've played so many roles in dealership, I have an innate understanding of those roles and know how to do them. So, a sales manager is sick, I can run desk deals. I can go downstairs and run them and talk to customers and sell a car. I can help out in the service wherever is possible, things like that. So, having those key people to do that well gives me a reason not to have to worry about it. I don't have
So
to double check on it anymore.
let me ask you a question. I mean, I had this. It's funny how organically thoughts come to our minds, and I think of private episodes of The Chosen Life. Mohammed Faki was on, the president of Paramount Fine Foods, great restaurant brand, and he was saying that in his mind that the employee, your team members, are in fact more important than the customers. And his logic was, without having the good team in place and without making your employees a priority, then they cannot give the customer the best experience. Because if you make the customer the priority, but you don't give that respect to the employees to be able to give them the tools and etc., the customer inevitably will not get that good experience. What do you think
Right.
of that?
I think there's some truth to what he's saying. However, ultimately, without the customers, you wouldn't have a place for people to work at. So it's almost like
Right.
a chicken and egg kind of deal.
Yes.
I think it definitely does go both ways. I think they're both very, very important. But yes, you do definitely need your staff to be able to deliver a quality service that's going to continue to retain and or attract new customers. So there's that thing you have to struggle with all the time. It's very important to hire good people, and hire good people and pay them well. That's another side of it. There are lots of people out there who are totally underutilized and underpaid. Um, but I mean, that's probably a another podcast.
I could do a whole podcast on the fact that there is a talent drain right now.
Yeah.
And I've talked to leaders in all industries, not just in my profession, not just in your profession, but in general, it seems it's hard to find good talent, motivated, loyal. It is just amazing out there. It seems that a lot of people on the job market today, they're saying, oh, there's no jobs, there's no jobs, no jobs. They don't want to work, but they want to get paid top dollar, and they have zero experience, and they maybe don't even have the knowledge. It blows my mind, because you and I come from a generation, or generation still relatively, where you come in, look, I don't have the experience, maybe I have some knowledge, I don't care what I'm making at this point, I'm going to bust my butt for you, and I'm going to build it up, and I'm going to show you. That was how I was brought up. That's how you were brought up. In the year 2022, that's not how they're being brought up at all,
Yeah,
or not for the most part.
I agree with you 100%, and I see it when we interview some new people. Let's call it, like people we're trying to bring into the fold for certain positions, and yeah, there's definitely a big spectrum. But sometimes you'll find that one that you can work with that allows you to move that forward, and eventually, most people are going to have to fall into line and be able to work hard, because then they're going to get overlooked all the time. So people are going to have to learn and make those adjustments in their life. But you're right, intellectual capital is absolutely a huge thing, because there are lots of people that have lots of knowledge in an organization, and sometimes losing them will put you a step backwards rather than putting you a step forwards, right? And getting the right person and getting that work ethic is very invaluable these days, because everybody thinks they could be a TikTok superstar and work 3 hours a day and make $10,000 a month. It's just not reality, right? Like I always tell people, like, great, you want to be a TikTok superstar, you got to recognize that in the beginning you're going to have to probably put in 80, 90, 100 hours a week branding yourself, right? Putting out good content, quality content that people are going to want to watch, building your audience. There's so many things, and you've done it with your podcast, right? It's something that you started,
slowly.
and you continue to build it. But the reality is, over time, the same way if you start a business, over time it's going to get easier, and it's going to look like you're working 4 hours a day, and it gets easy that way because of the fact that you've taken the time to foster that right process and build that good foundation. A lot of people don't understand that. They can't see that time frame in their minds.
Look at each of our respective. It's funny you're saying this, and people I've brought on from all walks of life on the show, it's following a constant theme as far as hard work, perseverance, putting it in. You have been in the car industry for how long?
16 years now.
16 years. And how long were you in the banking industry for?
11.
11. Okay. So we're combining those years also, because you're bringing a lot of that life and work experience, what you brought to the automotive industry, obviously. I'm coming up to my 20th year after being called to the bar. And podcasting, I've done it now. I'm coming up to a little past 6 months. It's funny because I did blogging before and I built up an infrastructure that way. And it's funny though, it's not the same thing, but it kind of is. And when you have kind of the experience as far as reaching out to the public and how you're putting out content, maybe instead of written, it's spoken, as far as how you're doing social media, but there's a lot of the same formulas, but something was done. There is experience coming into it, certainly. And I can tell you, sitting at just law itself, I was a year 10 and I was still spinning my wheels, but I said, keep your head down, keep learning as much as you can, soak up as a sponge. It'll come, it'll come, it'll come. And I kept telling myself this, but best story I'll tell you, you know what? I always answer a story with a story. How are you going to like this one? I had somebody once interview with me for an articling position. Okay. Many moons ago. So the guy comes into my office, sits down, puts his feet up on my desk, looks at me like this, says to me, so tell me, how do I get your job? And I look at him, I said, you can start off by getting your effing feet off my desk before I cut them off. And I said, I don't know what jungle or where the heck you came from, but buddy, you need to learn some manners here because you're never going to get a job with that kind of attitude. And I read him the right act. And then we kind of like laughed it off a bit. And I said, buddy, you got to smarten up, man, because I'm going to tell you the ABCs. You know what, George? Tell me if you agree or disagree. I tell people there's a very simple formula on how to get a job. I believe that if I go to interview for any job, I don't care what, I can't go be a brain surgeon, for example, but if it's something in my wheelhouse, I'm going to get it. Very simple. I come in, I say, look, this is who I am, and this is what I'm about. This is who you are as a company. This is who you are, Mr. Interviewer or Mrs. Interviewer. This is what you've done. This is what you're about. This is why we fit well together. And I would like to show you this. You know what? Bring me in for a day. Bring me for a week. Don't even pay me. I don't care. I'll show you what I'm about. And if you don't like it, you can kick me out at any point. But I want this job. I believe I'll be better than any candidate. No one is going to outwork me. I pick up things fast. I will try my best for you. I want this. I'm devoted. I'm here. This is the job I want. I think I'm going to get it. What do you think?
100%. 100%.
Not complicated, right?
If you took the time to learn about the person, you took the time to learn about the company, and you said, listen, these are the skills that I have, and this is how I can benefit you. And I'm going to give you some free time just so you can try me out. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Folks, you know where I learned this from, actually? This is how George met his wife to be. He came to her and said, honey, it's nice to meet you. This is who I am, and this is who you are. And this is why I think we would work well together and why I would serve your organization well. And she gave a second date, and here they are together happily married after.
I thought that you were my wife to be, but that's okay.
That's another episode.
Thank you for enjoying today's episode of the Chosen Life podcast. Go ahead and hit the subscription button below and the notification bell to catch all of our great shows. And remember to contact the Chosen Lawyers when you are ready for your next real estate and commercial transaction. Go to kormans.ca.